Okay, so for anybody that's on this call that missed last week's webinar, it's on YouTube. I sent you a link also about it if you wanted to watch it again. I'll do the same thing with this week's, and I'll tell you about next week's in a minute. I'm really excited about next week's training. So let's get started, okay? Let's see. First of all, let me close this off. Okay, 5 mandatory questions that need to be asked of every short sale transaction. Sorry, I had to stop there for a minute because the little bar comes on and I can't see what the thing says. So, okay, I bet I can move that if I try. No, okay. Okay, so these are 5 questions that you have to ask of every short sale. Let me see, she's loud record, okay. And because it's just like in my final judgment group, just because you find the defendant that you want to collect against doesn't make him collectible, doesn't make him have the ability to pay us. So you can't force it. And it's the same thing in short sales. You cannot force it. So these are 5 questions you have to ask of your potential short sale before you get involved. This is before you get involved. Okay, here it is. Is the property, let me close this thing again. I'll get better at this, I promise. Is the property sufficiently upside down? Okay, so as we know, a short sale is when you have no equity. And you have to be sure that the property is sufficiently upside down. And what does that mean? That means that the property is upside down in such a way that it could not be sold on the open market and have the seller pay all the costs that are required of a seller in the state of Florida. That's the real estate commission, dock stamps, closing costs, title insurance, depending upon the county. So the property has to be sufficiently upside down. If the property is not upside down, it has to be real close. And what I mean by that is that once it goes into foreclosure, once the LP is filed, the attorney's time starts ticking. And that number is going to go up. So whatever the number is when they file the complaint, the number meaning the amount that's owed, whatever that number is, when the complaint is filed, it's going to go up. It's never going to go down. That number's never going to go down. So you have to make sure that you calculate in to what it's going to cost to get that thing closed before you determine whether the house is upside down. Like, for example, the house is worth 300 and they owe 250. Believe it or not, that's going to be close because the attorney's fees and the interest that's going to be compounding on that final judgment and on that note at 18%, by the way, until the final judgment is entered, is going to go up quick. So is the property sufficiently upside down? And if you have any questions regarding whether it is or not, just shoot me an email, send me the property, and we'll discuss it. By no means am I an expert in every market, but I am an expert at projecting what a final judgment is going to be, because there's a lot of factors that goes into why a final judgment is entered that's much higher than the amount due in the original complaint. A lot of it has to do with how hard the attorney has to work, how many defendants there are, how behind the defendant is, how many times the defendant has filed bankruptcy, how many promises to pay that the defendant has broken. All that kind of stuff goes into whether how big that final judgment is going to be. So let me see. Okay, I think I'm going to try to get to the next screen, and we're going to go on. We'll ask for questions at the end, okay? Okay, is the property in poor enough condition to warrant a lower offer? It can't look like this one. If you're trying to do a short sale on this one, forget about it. Because let's consider why a bank would agree to take a haircut on their mortgage amount. Why would they agree to take less money than what they're owed? And the reason would be is because the powers that be at the bank think that they're not going to be able to recoup their investment, or I mean, even their partial of their investment if they go to sale. Because their only other alternative is to go to sale, the foreclosure sale. You know that investors at the sale are not going to bid the thing up over the value. They're probably going to get within 20 to 25% of the value, unless, of course, the investors make a mistake. But then if the bank takes it back, they have to worry about taxes, insurance, vandalism, real estate commission, and the same expenses that they would have if they short sold it, right? So it makes sense for the bank to consider if the property is in disrepair. If the property looks like this one, then chances are the bank is going to want to take their chances, go to sale, get it back, and sell it on the retail market. And I think they think that they'll do okay with it. And let's face it, if it looks like this on the day of the sale, they'll do fine. There's no question about it. So the bank has got to be somewhat willing to take that haircut, and they're not going to take it on a pretty property like this. Are there any big ticket repairs required? I don't know if you guys ever seen my tax deed presentation where I talk about Miss Shirley, but this is what her poor house looked like. That poor thing was living in tough conditions. But anyway, she was my best opponent ever as a homeowner in tax deed. She kicked my butt from Broward County all the way up here to Brevard. So look for that on my YouTube channel. I think I talk about it. It's pretty funny, but she was great. But are there any big ticket repairs required on the subject property? If there are, what you have to do as a whatever your position is in this short sale, you want to make sure that it gets highlighted. Take all the pictures you can of the problem areas. Now you see this room has got quite a few problem areas, and I don't think I would take close-ups of the holes in the roof because you can see them pretty clearly. Just so an overall picture, just like this one, says 1,000 words. So you don't need to take up close and personal pictures like it did. Like, for example, if there's fall damage on the roof outside, I would try taking an up close picture of that, bring it into scale, obviously. But okay, so if the property needs big ticket repairs, then you're going to be better off and you're going to have a better chance at having the bank discount their number. Because after all, that's what we're looking to do. We're looking for the bank to discount their number to the point where an investor can come in and buy this thing. And if you've worked it right, you eventually will be the investor that takes advantage of the bank's haircut. So keep that in mind. We went over all the parties in the short sale last week. Go back and watch the video, see which one you're wired for, and then concentrate on trying to achieve that part. Okay, let's see what the next one is. Do the homeowners appear to be eager and helpful? Now, this, of course, you're not going to know until you get a chance to meet with them. But the homeowners are going to have to come up with a lot of documents. Hopefully, when you meet with the homeowners, they have already been processed through the bank's loss mitigation strategies. In other words, the bank, before they agree to a short sale, the homeowners have got to be dismissed or removed from their loss mitigation department. What that means is the bank is going to try to take a look at the financial condition of that homeowner, and they're going to try to see if they can do some things creatively to keep that homeowner in the property. Like what they can do is they'll take all the payments, they'll add them onto the back. They'll take all the payments that are back owed and they'll add them on to your next 6 months payments. They'll try anything that they can, as long as whatever caused the default has been cured. So you lost your job, you got behind, you got a new job, you'll qualify for loss mitigation where your payments will be adjusted and you'll be able to stay in the house. Now, it's going to be a little tough for a little while because they're going to make your payments a little higher, but you have to qualify again at those higher payments. So most of the people that we speak to, when we go into their house and the LP is filed and we determine that their property is upside down, there's no form of loss mitigation that's going to correct the fact that the homeowner's upside down. Nothing. No increased income, no gift of loan, nothing. So if a property's upside down, your homeowners are going to sail through the loss mitigation problem, or what's again called again? The department. Sorry, I'm getting old, man. The department, and then we'll be able to do a short sale with the bank's blessing. So it's very important to understand that when the homeowners do a loss mitigation with the bank, they have to come up with financials. They'll have to come up with all kind of written stuff. I'm not going to suggest that they're going to take testimony from the homeowners, but they're going to get statements. So they're going to try to figure out, the bank wants to figure out a way to keep this loan going. But again, if the property's upside down, there's no loss mitigation techniques in the world. They're going to fix that except for a short sale. That's the only way they're going to do it. Now, I'm going to back up quick. Next week, we're going to talk about a couple of loans that I was offered to buy. And the reason I'm going to bring them up on our 25 minutes is because I was offered the loans as well as the strike price information. In other words, most of the time when you bid on a loan, you bid and you don't know how much the seller is going to take. So you try to get as close as you can, you negotiate, and either you get it or you don't. But in these two loans, I was offered to buy these loans, and the broker gave me the strike price. So I know exactly what the seller's going to take. And in all honesty, it surprised me. It surprised me. And we're going to go over it next week. But the reason I'm bringing it up now is because if you owned the loan that was going into foreclosure and you called those homeowners, there's a way that you as a loan holder can fix their default. You can fix their problem. You can fix it through loss mitigation, even if they're upside down. And that's the great thing about owning mortgages. But we'll talk about that more next week. So I want everybody to understand that the bank cannot fix an upside down property through loss mitigation. They cannot. The banks are unwilling. Their investors won't let them do it. I'm sure there's other rules and regulations and things that they sign with the people that funded these loans that aren't going to allow a principal reduction. So this is where we come in. We're going to help them through this because we're the only people that can help them get through with a short sale. Now, are there other people that can do short sales? Absolutely. But they're not going to qualify them like this. And unfortunately, 4 or 5 out of 10 people are going to call you to do short sales, and you're not going to be able to do it for whatever reason. But of course, you have to run your request through these 5 items to determine whether or not they'll be good candidates. And again, I don't want to dwell on the screen too much more, but the homeowners have to be willing to help you. They have to be willing to submit all the paperwork and sign all the documents and go through the inspections. That's just part of the game. Are there any additional mortgages or other encumbrances on the property? Back in the day when we were doing short sales back in I started in the early 2000s in Ohio, and there wasn't a lot of home equity lines of credit. But when I got involved in Florida in 2007 and 8, there were a lot of HELOCs, and they didn't want to move. So what you have to be able to convey to that second mortgagee is that if it goes to foreclosure and the property's upside down, the bank is going to get any proceeds that any investor pays. Plus, if they discount it at the sale, they'll get all the way up to their principal. In other words, you're going to get wiped out. You're not going to have anything. And I think, and I'm not a numbers guy, but I think that the second mortgagee would have some sort of a tax benefit if they wrote it off. I'm not certain. But you've got to be able to convince that second mortgagee that they have to go away. I personally prefer that there be no other encumbrances, because your job to convince the bank to take a haircut is hard enough on its face. I would really hate to have a second mortgagee that you had to convince to take nothing, because let's face it, there's not going to be much left. As a matter of fact, the lender or the mortgagee, the first mortgagee, is going to chew down your numbers when you submit your proposed HUD. And unfortunately for the real estate agents, that's the first target of the bank. We're going to take a little nibble off of what the agents are getting. That's just the way it goes. Okay, so we really don't want them to be any other encumbrances on that property. Now, as you get better at this, you will learn which second mortgagees would be more interested in working with you, i.e. taking $1,000 and going away, or the ones that are going to stand pat and they're going to blow your sale. Now, what's interesting about this is that you don't approach the second mortgagee until you've got approval from the first. And sometimes the approval from the first will come contingent upon you removing the second lien. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can't reach out to them too early. You can't reach out to them too late. They're there. So long story short, if the property doesn't have a second mortgagee, I'm happier about it. If it does have a second mortgagee, it's not inconceivable that we can get past it, but it's going to make your road a little tougher. Okay. Never miss an opportunity to learn about something new. That's what we're learning today. We learned it last week. And like I said, next week, we're going to talk about, there's my contact information. Next week, we're going to talk about 2 loans, first mortgages. One's in New York and the other one is in, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They're both firsts and they're both performing, but I was very surprised at the strike price. Those of you that don't know, the difference between performing and non-performing is quite substantial. Mortgages that aren't performing are sold at a huge discount, where mortgages that are performing are sold at a relative discount, and it's reasonable. So there's my contact information. You heard that I'm in a final judgment group. We're collecting final judgments here up in Orlando, in Orange County. And if anybody wants any more information about the final judgment group or anything that we're doing in Central Florida, I'm going to list Ivanhoe Alverez's. I'm going to list his contact information in the video when I post it. So you'll be able to reach Ivanhoe if you want to do that. Also, anybody in Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach, if you want to get involved with what we're doing in Dade and Broward, you can contact Jose. And I haven't talked to him about this yet. So with his permission, I'll put his contact information in the details below the video once I record it. So it looks like whatever overtime I ran last week, we're going to run a little light. So I'm going to turn off my screen share if I can figure it out, and then I'll open it up for some questions. So next week, like I said, we're going to be talking about defaulted mortgages, which is an interesting take on this whole problem that we're going to have. And those of you that are interested in short sales, the fact is there's not a lot. There's not an abundance of short sales right now, but they're coming up. If you go over to Southwest Florida and you see what's going on over there, inventories are going up. I think they're up 30% this month, which is stupid because that's going to put so much pressure on homeowners that they're not going to be able to get their number. And short sales are going to be becoming a thing again. And what we're doing by learning it now is we're going to get ahead of the curve. So we'll be able to be up on it when it gets here. Hopefully we'll be able to have it up and running. So I don't want to waste anybody's time. I still have stuff to say, but not to you. So I'm going to wait for some questions. I'm going to give it 2 or 3 minutes.
I got a quick question, Rich. What do you do in a situation if the home is in very good condition?
It's in good condition, Rick. So in other words, it falls out of the 5 that we talked about today.
Yeah. What would you do in that type of?
I'm not even going to try it because you don't. It's just like when you have a good buyers list. You don't want to send your wholesale buyers properties that are crappy or deals that aren't worth it because you end up wasting your time and you burn your contact. So I don't like to try to shove a short sale through because when you sit down and you take a client, that homeowner is thinking you're going to be able to help them. And if you tell them you're going to be able to help them and you can't, it just feels bad. I don't like the way that feels.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be straight up honest with them. We're talking so they'll understand exactly what our chances are. And if their house is beautiful, I'll congratulate them on their house, but we'll bring in an agent anyways just to list it for sale and see if we can't get something for them. Gotcha. Because if they have an LP filed, which is something we're going to talk about in Orlando group next week, if there's an LP filed, they're behind in their mortgage. If they're not going to be able to bring it up to speed, they're not going to be able to get current again, then let's see if we can sell it for them. So that's unfortunately, Rick, and you're going to run into that because I can tell you're going to be one of those guys that's going to be on the street. You'll be knocking on doors, and unfortunately, you're going to have to tell some homeowners, "I'm sorry, this program is not going to work for you." And when we get into short sales more, or if you go onto my website, I have a whole bunch of stuff about what I do there. I think I have my checklist, my homeowners checklist on my website or on my YouTube channel. And that gives you a list of things that you had to confirm with the homeowner. And one of which is you confirm the condition and say, listen, babe, this house is just too nice. Let's try to sell it straight up instead of short selling because the bank is not going to want to take a haircut on it.
Okay.
Follow me?
And that's like, was that on the website you just posted right now with your information?
Yeah, pofsk.com.
Okay.
That's my website. I got lots of stuff there, and it'll lead you to my YouTube channel too, because I talk about a lot of short sale stuff because that was one of the first trainings I came out with a bunch of years ago.
I also never got a copy of that first video. Would it be possible to get a copy of that?
Yeah, I'll resend it. You know what? But I think it's ended up in people's spam because you're not the only person that said that to me. So I'm going to instead of the sender being pofsk.com, my website, I'm going to put my name as the sender. So maybe it'll look a little more authentic than the other one did.
Okay. Thank you, Rich.
I'll resend it.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. And anybody else have anything else? Jose? I can't believe you have no questions, babe. Ivanhoe.
Not yet, Rich. Not yet.
Not yet, dude. We got about 2 minutes. I'll be done.
Let me think of one.
Yeah, think of one. Don't hurt yourself.
What's
Ivanhoe, you out there? Everything good with you, babe?
Ivanhoe doesn't seem to be on.
Oh, Ivanhoe's not here. Okay, I'm going to see him at 2:00. So
Rich, can I get that website again, please?
yeah, it's POFSK.com, pocketsofspecializedknowledge.com.
Got it. Thank you.
And if you're around me enough, you'll learn that I know nothing about anything. Like I can't put my kids' bicycles together. I can't do anything. I don't know which end of a screwdriver to hold, but I do know everything inside this little tiny circle. So that's me. That's my little pockets of specialized knowledge. And by the way, for those of you that watch 2.5 Men, I got that name from Charlie when he was talking to Alan about, I guess, something he was good at. And he said that he did have a couple of pockets of specialized knowledge. So I stole that from him. Okay, come on. Questions. I don't want to kill everybody. I'll wait one more minute and then we're going to go to next week. Come on next week because we're going to be learning about mortgages. It's going to be interesting. And if you have any suggestions about stuff that you want me to cover in the 25 minutes, I might not be able to do it right away, but I certainly will cover it on a Thursday coming up.
I have a suggestion, Rich.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to maybe next session or whatever, we can do a sample of a deal, just like a sample of a deal of the number guidelines that you're talking about, the willingness of the buyer. I don't know, just something where we can kind of see it from beginning to end.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. What I'll do is I'll take my short sale checklist and I'll bring that in and we'll be able to go over it and I'll try to apply it to an actual property that it might fit, or maybe a homeowner that's already turned me down, just so we can figure out and kind of see it, put it in perspective.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Hey,
Okay,
Rich, I got another question.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we know when people get that LP, they usually have that 20 days to respond, right?
Yes.
So if it goes past that point of 20 days to respond, and we do get in contact them eventually, do they still have time to respond to the court with that statement?
Okay, Rick, that's a really good question. Yeah, what we're looking for is that LP to be filed because that's our signal to go. We put our information together, we head over to the homeowner's house. But before we go, we want to make sure that the homeowner has been served with the foreclosure action. Because I think we talked about it on one of our web videos here in Orlando. We don't want to be the one to tell the guy he's in foreclosure. Because you're going to be the bearer of bad news and you're going to try to bring the remedy at the same time. I don't think you'd be able to do that. Because gotcha. When my younger days, when I was more eager, in my younger days, when I was more eager, I was getting out there early. And once or twice I got there before they got served and they had no idea they were in foreclosure. Now they knew they were behind, but they didn't know they were in foreclosure. So, okay, I forgot your question, Rick.
Well, no, just about the past 20 days from that list.
Okay.
Do they still have time after that?
Once the defendant gets served with the foreclosure, they have 20 days to answer. And that's 20 calendar days, not banking days. So they have 20 days to answer. If they file an answer, they're going to get more time in their house. But if they don't answer within the 20 days and the clock is ticking, if they haven't yet been defaulted out by the court, they can still file their answer. Gotcha. So if we're at a homeowner's house on a Saturday and the 20 days ran the previous Tuesday, but we can look in the docket sheet and they haven't been defaulted out yet, give them that form. Go ahead and let them fill out the form and tell them don't mail it in, hand bring it to the court. Because if you can get that answer in before you get defaulted, the court will hear your answer. But once you get defaulted, it's all over.
Gotcha. Okay.
Good question. No, thanks. Okay, so Beth Moreno, shoot, go right ahead.
Hey, good morning. So what you were just kind of saying, I think it kind of slightly answered my question in a way, but I'm still I need a little bit more clarity. So what about, I have quite a few properties I'm working right now, but let's just say one of them, what about if they already have auction dates on them? Is that too late to I have a Lakeland property, has an auction date of the 25th of this. Numbers are upside down. Well, property is not in good shape. It's kind of a little bit destroyed. I think the payout amount to the bank, what's it called? The total default amount that they're wanting is like 214,000. The ARV of the property is 315,000. I think Ivan and I were discussing it yesterday and we realized he was like 57,000 behind to bring it to bring it current, 4% interest rate. So is that too late to help or do anything? If-
First of all, let's see. So I understand the sale date is set. Is it too late? If I was going to work this, what you need to do is call the plaintiff's attorney, because you're not going to go through the rigmarole to put together a short sale. Call the plaintiff's attorney and ask them if his client would entertain a short sale. But based on
They
the numbers
will
you gave
entertain
me,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, based on the numbers you gave me, it sounded like the property is right side up.
Yeah, well, I guess it kind of, I don't know. It's a little confusing because it's damaged. And the owner he's sick with cancer. So he's got some hardship going on there, and he's filed both chapter 7 and 13 this year.
Okay, so he's trying to stop the sale. He's been dismissed from his bankruptcy because he hasn't completed them probably. If there's
Right.
equity, it's going to go to the sale. And the people at the bank are sitting around a big table and they're all going, okay, we're owed 200. This property is worth 3 and change because it's in Florida. It's even worth more. We're going to let the investors buy it. So do I see a chance for a short sale on that? No, because the investors are going to buy it. The bank wants to get a full payoff. And if the property's worth 3X and they're owed 2X, they're never going to agree to take a short haircut. They're not gonna.
Yeah. And then the numbers don't really work out for an investor to buy it either because of what it's going to need, renovation cost.
Some investors are, let me just say, short-sighted.
Yeah.
They're not all paying attention like they should. Let's face it, you wouldn't buy it at the final judgment number, but there are guys out there, believe it or not, that probably might.
Yeah, you're right. I wish I had those guys on my.
Well, you know what? It's easy to find them. Just go to the sale. Just go to the sale. See who bids on it, because there's a list online about who bids on everything and how much they would have bid. So go there, and that's where you start establishing your buyers list. If you haven't got a good buyers list, that's where you go. Go to where the list of foreclosure buyers are, and they're online in every county that Real Foreclosure uses. And those are the guys that are either, they're dumb and fat, and they got more money than brains. So you can pick your poison with those guys.
That's a golden nugget. How do I find them again? How do I find that foreclosure?
If the county has sales online, they're most likely going to be on realforeclose.com. Or if you just go to the county and put in foreclosure sales for that county, they will tell you what website it is. And if it's Real Foreclosure, on every property as it goes to sale, you can click on the bidders on their name and you can see who bid. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's tax deeds where you get the name, but in foreclosures, you get the bidder number. But in that case, all you have to do is go and look and see who got CT out of Polk County in August of last year. And every foreclosure buyer in Lake County, at least that participated that month. So because they'll get property via a certificate of title. And that's the only way you get CT is if you buy at the sale.
Certificate of title. Okay. That's golden. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you asked the question, because I'm sure everybody had a version of that question as well. Okay, man. So I'm up on my 25 minutes. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Let's have a question, or we're going to blow it off, and I'll see y'all next Thursday. Okay, looks like I'm clear. I'll send everybody a copy of this. Remember, if you have any questions, you want to follow up with me, you saw my information. I'm going to put Ivanhoe's information in the video description. Same with Jose's for those of you in South Florida, and for Ivanhoe for Central Florida. If nothing else, I'll see a lot of you guys later this week, but I'll see y'all next week. Thanks very much for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.